can't spend the nose. They wait. Oh, can you tell me who? They wait. Did you see it? They wait. I'm glad stopping by. Take them to him, baby.
Where you guys able to find it? If not, I can text you the link.
Take them up again.
Behind the scene posters went up too.
Oh, can you tell me who? Oh, yeah. In the nose. I think we are alive and well. Welcome, gentlemen. It's been a hot minute.
It has.
Thank you.
I missed your beautiful faces. You been okay?
Yes.
Been
dude.
doing good, dude.
Great, man.
Man.
Always. Hope you've been doing good.
I've been doing real well. A couple of changes in life with getting the house and kind of rearranging projects.
Yeah, how's
but
that
things
going? Yeah.
It's been an achievement that didn't feel as monumental once I was just dealing with like the tedious bullshit of being
Right.
there.
Oh,
But that's been
dude.
awesome.
We were rolling into the cul-de-sac, man. I actually said something to Ken. I'm like, wait, he got a new house? Should we be going there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so me and the wife are living on the other side of the river now, pretty close to where she grew up. But I'm
Okay.
still working here, and there's no way I'm moving any of this shit out of here.
No, this would be an
Oh.
entire
Yeah,
That's
year's
a-
worth of a mess.
I don't have the
feel like.
space.
dude.
I wouldn't have the time with my folks I like, and I wouldn't have the quietness. You
Yeah.
know? So that's a whole game in and of itself.
Yeah, this has been your space for a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
I-
Basically, since we've known you.
I started producing in this space. This is the first house I ever lived at, so I'm very grateful to be able to do it.
Yes.
Now, you boys recently moved the operation as well, correct?
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
We went all the way out from Browncow, Mount Orb, and we've now moved back into the suburbs.
Very
of
nice.
Beachmont, and which is nice for me. I lived out in the Eastgate area for a while, so I'm familiar. It's all they've done is build a bunch of stuff. And then Caden, this is the closest you've been to the city ever, right?
Oh, yeah. Outside of moving out for college and stuff,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
about it.
Where did you go to college at again?
It was Moorhead.
Moorhead, that's right.
We're trying to domesticate you, Caden. We're trying to get you to wash your vegetables and quit playing in the mud.
I know. I
Slowly.
gotta be. It's like Elton John said, man. Gotta go to the city life for a little before you go back to the country.
Damn straight, brother. And before this move was kind of like the 90% of the work that went into the movie, right? How long has the Moonlight Hour been in the production stages?
So we kind of got an end note right before we moved. We did like the last month we were at that house. We're like, we got to finish it. We got to get it done. We got to get all of the marketing, get all the pictures, photos, posters, videos. All that stuff's got to be like, we're wrapping it up, because it was at that point about 3.5 years that we've been working on that movie for, which is funny. It's 35 minutes long, so it's like every 10 minutes is a year worth of our time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did that experience change what you thought went into that kind of cinematic work, or did you anticipate the effort that was going in as you were seeing the results?
Huge change. So like we made an entire, like, when we went into the first few months of the filming Moonlight, because we filmed most of Moonlight Hour in 6 months. It was mostly all the scenes had gotten filmed. We just did a lot of B stuff, a lot of pickup stuff, and then reshoots was mostly like a lot of the makeup work, and then just there was a lot of ideas floating throughout the time in between, because there's so much time there to kind of work with. So like, oh, what about this? What about that? So a lot of good ideas came, a lot of changes to the original script came, a lot of things got cut. So a lot of that, there was a lot of time for that in between a lot of that. So, but the process changed for us entirely, because we had done like short films. We had done 5-8 minute long at most films before we decided to go at that. And originally we'd shot for the stars and wanted to do a feature length film. So we wanted to shoot for 1.5 hours, 2 hours long. Realized very quickly that our ambitions were much too high. So we dialed it back, and then got with Ricky and kind of thought of this concept of Moonlight Hour and trimmed it down to about a 30-minute long short. Thought it could go an hour if we wanted it to, but we wanted to shoot for a shorter time period.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I've always found, especially with short projects on my end, is you're always compromising, what you put on the table for what needs to be presented. So did the storyboard and the script get trimmed in general?
No.
I mean,
yes and no.
Yes and no, yeah.
We trimmed a little bit of it, but I would say the current movie, it sits about 35. I'd say we trimmed about 15 minutes off
about
of it.
45.
Nothing too
50-ish.
crazy.
And what does that tend to be? Like dialogue
Scenes.
or unspoken moments?
So
Unspoken moments tend to be the longest, at least for us, because like we've kind of accepted that we're dealing with a lot of people that aren't professional actors. Like they're great, they did a fantastic job with this movie,
Non-actors.
but they're non-actors. So we try to tend to avoid dialogue, just do a lot of long facial reaction. That's what we got with a lot of the characters, like just look mean or look sad or look like that.
Well, especially with Rachel, because it was
Yeah.
her first film she's ever done with any sort of stuff like that. She's played music for all this time, and she's done a couple little like artsy videos with imagery and stuff.
Monologues,
like that.
things
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
But-
probably music videos and things like that. But everyone that's on this cast is at varying degrees of
A non-actor, yeah.
Yeah, but I'd say is semi-professional being involved in that world of
Yeah,
entertainment.
we're all
Like,
artists.
Everyone's
for sure.
been involved in this in some way, shape,
Yeah.
or form. And like
Yes.
you've told me about the many experiences that you've had with Ricky, of kind of coming from being a friend in the peripheral of y'all doing this to
Yes.
now being one of the main folks you lean
Yeah,
on
mainstay.
Yeah.
to get that across. And he seems to have found this this essence of himself of kind of similar to artists. I'd say like I get to play a character. I get to play an exaggerated version of myself when I step on stage, and that gives so much relief to the rest of my life
Right.
to be more poignant about the simple things that matter to me, because that's the live extra a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
And it seems like he's kind of found this in his life.
He definitely has.
I've had that same conversation with him many times, man. I try to explain to him, and I've had this conversation with Kate. I'm like you are who you are, like when the guy that walks around every day, but there's an extension of you that you've curated through your art, and that's also what people know you as. And so that's something that you have to play into. So you have to understand both facets of your realities. You know what I mean? Like how to play into that when you want to utilize it for entertainment purposes, and also to understand that people have a perception of you. Ricky's got his like family and friends are sharing the trailer and the interview, and they're like, oh my God, they're so surprised because they've never actually seen this side of Ricky.
Yeah.
Because it's a different side. It's the working side. It's the artist. It's the I'm going to dedicate a part of my life. It's kind of cool to see the reaction to people.
Yeah.
And the different sides of people, because obviously, like, we know you sides. We know you as an artist, as an entertainer, and as a businessman too. We get to kind of see those layers of perception.
Well, playing the many roles in your films that you have, do you feel the same way, or do you feel like you've had to reinvent yourself for each role that you've played, while also being somewhere between a split personality of on and behind the scenes?
So for me, definitely, I've had, especially in this movie, it was a whole conversation, because I was an actor, and normally I'm behind the camera and kind of directing and moving the motion picture forward. But this time I was more of an assistant director and was more of hands on set, and allowed Kaden and Josh to kind of push the framing forward with the camera.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of step back, because I'm not looking at the camera anymore. I'm not seeing it from the third eye view. I'm in the scene. So I had to learn to stop and my thoughts into everything, because I'm not seeing it the way it's supposed to be seen right now. I'm just a character in the scene, and I had to kind of separate that in the beginning, but it was pretty quick work. I feel like I learned to shut the fuck up real fast.
Yeah,
But that's also how you participate in the art. You know, you're as the speaker in that kind of role. It's hard to be fed, 5 minutes of dialogue and how you participate in that. Reserve your thoughts about that for what you can put into it.
Right.
To say all I have 2 lines right here, right now. Like just in those first 5 minutes, it is a lot of unspoken moments for you.
Yeah.
Which is a challenging thing to put on a guy that's mainly been there for the dialogue, for the conversation about. So when did we get Josh involved?
That was a few months into production, I would say.
Well, so we started
After
writing.
writing?
Yeah, so we started writing
It was
late November, early December, and we finished by December 20th.
Yeah, it was December 2020. It took us 20 days to write the draft of the script, and after that, then we brought Ricky and Rachel on.
As the main leads, kind of got them in the reading the script and kind of finished writing process, like just to get a finished script. And then that's around March we came and asked Josh to be involved as a directing unit.
And is that because hand felt spread thin?
That's we did
Exactly.
feel that the movie was going to be a little bigger, and it was during COVID time, so we the plan was smaller group of people work on this so it doesn't kind of break the bounds of what a big crew would feel like, especially in COVID times where like a lot of people weren't really getting together in groups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because this was 2020 when we like wrote. 2020 we wrote.
So you have it in
Moonlight.
hand by 2020, and that's when this 3.5 years starts.
March 2021 starts of filming.
And when y'all are just doing an initial script between the two of you, are you doing reads back and forth?
Yeah. I was in
Very-
Manchester at the time. I was in the cabin, and he was in Mount Orb, and we would just get on FaceTime on the phone and for hours just talk back and forth and write, and then review and edit. And that one, it was really crazy how fast we wrote that one, because it really came together quick. And then once we got Ricky involved, it was kind of like we would write it, and then Ricky would be there to kind of overhear what we were discussing, and oh, hey, well, guys, what about this? And what about what you said earlier about this? And then you could put that there.
And had he already landed in the character that he was going to
He
play?
had.
Yeah.
We based a lot of the first, like, vision of Moonlight Hour based off of the fact that Ricky had started a little bit of weight. And we were like, dude, we loved the movie Good Time. So we make this kind of, like, anti-hero, but loves his, like, sibling, sort of. Somebody in his life is... It's like it's important to him, kind of guy. We like that kind of character, so we wanted to do something with that. And so like Ricky, let's give you the role to do something similar.
Yeah.
And that's where that kind of started. And that stirred him, and like a line, wasn't it? Be cool, bitch. Be fucking cool.
Yeah. We wanted to
Not the scene. The scene's completely different, but the line, I like that line so much, just because. In the scene, he walks up to the tax. So Robert De Niro sitting there with
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster, and her like pimp walks up and like throws money in the car for Robert, and then she's like scared, kind of gives him the eye, and he's like, "Hey, be cool, be fucking cool, bitch," and then just like tries to drag her. Hey, it's ain't cool, and like gets her and takes off with her.
Yeah.
I may be reciting that scene slightly different, but that's
You got basically
ultimately
bullet points of it.
Well, so
the
what,
use of the line and how and like that moment, because you've seen in the first 5, that moment when he grabs her, he's off the rails.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of spewing off the worst kind of like, I don't really know how to describe it.
Just the worst. Just dude day and robbing a gas station,
Yeah,
dude.
I mean, honestly, just kind of like that point where you kind of lose your sensibility of like
You're trying to,
like you're not calm in that moment anymore. There's no like defined decision making in that.
but he's trying to stay calm. It's a dude who's trying to stay calm yet having a really hard time and really frustrated.
Ricky's character in that, Jeremy, is very complicated too. Like he's very manipulative. He does a lot of gaslighting. Like a lot of the things he says kind of throws you off. Like he said, like shoot him. Go ahead and shoot him. I bet you don't even know how to use that thing. It's like that's such a like in that moment. If you're there holding that gun and he just said that to you, you'd be like,
What?
yeah.
What are you saying?
Well, it's interesting that you guys talk about it because like this is such a small team, and I know the way that I work in the past, like especially when it comes to editing, it's kind of like there's a room with a computer in it,
Yeah.
and when he walks out again, and we kind of pass the ball back and forth.
Yeah.
To try to subliminally get personality traits across from characters, I'd imagine that a year in, you second guess some choices about how you did it in that first year.
always.
100%,
Always.
dude.
And so it's hard to convey this likability factor to folks that you're trying to make the villain,
yeah.
especially when you're working with someone new kind of character development. But Ricky does that very well, especially in some of the other films that you've shown me. Like, what's the one with the home invasion?
Oh, is that
B&E?
Yeah, that ruined my whole day when you guys
Yeah,
showed me.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna take care of you.
yeah,
I'm gonna take care of you.
dude,
Yeah.
that shit was disturbing, and that's what you guys were going for. You
Yeah.
sick
Oh, yeah.
fucks,
Yeah.
but geez.
Oh yeah. Well, hit those kind of perspectives, man, because if you veil the cover over everything, you kind of forget the reasons why life is so pure and good. It's like because it comes from this mess of a world that we've kind of like it's coal that we've smushed into diamonds,
Yeah.
And so like our conveyance of bad stuff is always to have a purpose of like there's a lesson learned, whether it's a good or bad lesson. Moonlight, actually, of all movies we've done, ends more pure and good than most movies that we've ever done. And that was a big push from Kaden, because he's like, man, so much happened in this movie. We have to give somebody something.
Yeah, there has to be one in this. Otherwise, this is just miserable and just bad stuff happening for no real reason. It's essentially misery porn.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
I was talking to my wife. She was reading some books while we were on vacation. She made a point of just like books don't end with the same type of resolve that films tend to have to.
Yeah.
Like often when you see a movie, a book get made into a movie, there's compromise on, a lot of the exposition. A third of the story needs to get cut off, and also you need to put a nice little bow on it a little bit more often than you would in a book.
Yeah, dude. Movie Jaws, in the book it ends, the shark gets speared and it just kind of like just floats gently to the water, somber and like soft, but in the movie it dies in this giant fiery explosion.
I'm gonna blow that up.
And the reason was Steven Spielberg was like, it needs to have it. This is a movie. It needs to have that climactic, bombastic moment.
It's visual too, so like you just don't want to see like. Sometimes that's boring, and like that's why action movies had such a huge jump in the 80s and the 2000s again, is because people just wanted to see something crazy on camera.
Yeah. Well, did you find yourselves doing the same thing, that you had this script, these subtle undertones that the mind could imagine, but then when it came time to visualize, it's like, oh, this needs to be more bombastic. It needs to be more in your face.
Sometimes, yeah. Especially like the robbery. That was definitely something that we had imagined from the beginning, but it's like I can try to convince me to go in dressed up, Robin, it's very strange to start that conversation and try to understand that. But we had some very good friends, and we had done a lot of work with them, and we had done those types of movies before, so it's an easier sell to be like, hey, here's what we are, what our point is, and what we're trying to do. We want to do it in a simple and easy manner, but also we want to make it feel legit and real, so how do we do that easy, simple, to the point, and get out, and
well, you made this comment about like the coal being put into a diamond. Like,
right.
Was there a moment after filming where it's like so coal on the table and we're trying to make one diamond?
Always.
It's cut.
So if I was to give you a good, we talked about yesterday, right? It's about three scenes got majorly cut out, and there's more, but like 3 major scenes. So like words, dialogue, like purpose, and like a whole behind that scene, and to the storyline. There were like a few flashbacks that didn't make it to the play. There were a couple of things like we did like some like mood lighting that were spent like conscious thought and different things. Stuff didn't make it to the cut, but mostly the main line of the story, like I'd say for me, and this is my one thing that I really wanted in the film was we cut early, and it's funny because I was the one that like, guys, we should probably this out, but like it was such a good moment to me. But Amber in the film originally was supposed to think that she might be pregnant during this entire debacle. We decided to take that out because we didn't have time to go back onto a location and shoot that scene, because there's a resolving moment, like you said, like there's the bow tie. To do that for that part of the movie, we had to go back and do that, and we just didn't have the time and efforts to make that happen, so we just scratched it and then rewrote the story a little bit. We'll just take out those parts. The story's still the same. You still get the same thing from it, but that part will now be erased. So there was quite a few things, but ultimately, I mean, that's just the way the game is, man.
Yeah, but that's like the chopping block of choosing what songs go on a project for a lot of folks. And like, and you really need to zoom out to make that decision in a way that still makes you feel whole.
Absolutely.
Because you can't imagine life without it. We've sunk this much time into it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the end viewer is not going to know the things that weren't included.
Dude,
you were the only one. So did you reserve that for year 3 to make those decisions?
Those are made usually right after shooting. Like for example, that was made about 2 weeks before we shot at that gas station.
Get it while it's hot, man. Seriously, like
Yeah.
that's lightning in a bottle. Get it while it's hot.
Yeah, that was a lot of just we learned with preparing and stuff like 2 weeks before, like, oh, this isn't gonna work. What do we need to do and fix it? And that's what we learned a lot. It's just preparation to all of this, man. Like the gas station scene, we had 6 hours because we started at 7. And 12:30 was our hard out time. It's like after that we can't film anymore.
Yeah, we had to get out.
So we had to like prep and plan like the shot list, all the props and gear and stuff. We all that, got it all on set that day, and
Everybody
then just
had lines rehearsed.
rocked it, dude.
Yeah. And so, did you get explicit permission from the gas station to film?
Yeah, we
one
knew
day?
the owner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we knew the owner. And
Yeah, well,
had
I've gone to
permission.
the gas station with
Sup-
you guys. Like, I've stopped there before.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what a weird situation when you're walking up and you're like, hey, I know you've seen me loitering for the last 6 weeks trying to figure out how we do this.
I
This
have
is
a
what we
question.
want to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was, conversation. It's like, because it is about, when you're doing something like that, it is about safety. It is about knowledge. It is about here. This is what it is, and just getting that time off to where you don't have to worry about this kind of situation. And because shit can get weird very quickly when you're displaying that kind of art,
Oh, for sure. I mean, when you have a bunch of fake weapons on premises
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
have, stand-up going on. like-
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. But that's that's the thing.
Stick up, my bad.
Yeah, stick up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stick up. Stand up. Yeah. Same thing. But that's we did take precedent into all that stuff, and it was a lot of fun to kind of do that. It gave us that kind of insight, like, and again during COVID times, so we had to take on those kind of precautions too, like have masks, let's keep what we're inside, we'll wear them,
Yeah.
those kind of things. So that was it's kind of fun for us to test the waters of our professionalism, you know what I mean? Because we had been just doing it in our own realm with our friends and just making shorts for 5-minute longs and editing it and throwing them out in 2 weeks. This is a much larger project, much more many more eyes are on it, like more involved, and
Yeah.
it's so it is like that step.
So once you finish the filming and you're going through the editing process, does it go back to your system where there's a room with a computer, and when one guy leaves, the other one walks in, and we just kind of scrap at it?
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit.
Me and Josh did a lot of that for a good chunk of the beginning of the editing process, because 90, I'd say 90, what would you say, about 75% of the film was just me and Josh back and forth in it.
For the initial cut, yeah. You guys handled the cut.
And then for the last year, so 2023, it was just me in the room finishing it up, like getting it all done.
Yeah.
Like everything from audio to color to cut. I'm watching it dozens, if not thousands of times, and then convey, Kaden, here's the things, I'm writing them down. Here's your skill set that can fix those. My skill set that can fix those.
So
And
you're
just-
handling a big picture while he's doing the technical, or like where are you
Yeah.
kind of at in this, Caden?
Honestly, a lot of like the
effects.
technical stuff, FX, color, and then just opinions on the edit in general. Like
Yeah.
I will stand over Will and like he's doing stuff. I'll be like,
What do
oh,
you
what if
think?
that does this, or what if this does that?
Because the puzzle.
And
Yeah.
did you kind of need the space from it at that point? Like the thing that, and even with a small crew, you can have too many cooks in the kitchen.
100%.
Always, man,
When you
always.
guys are all wearing 15 different hats, like that's a bizarre thing to be watching over the shoulder and say, "Let me take the seat for a second."
Yeah.
And someone feels like they were just about to have that. There needs to be a hierarchy of command.
Yeah, there's
yeah.
a modicum of respect that would come to that if the one of us says like, "Hey, I'm doing this," or "I really like this idea." And sometimes we get into arguments about it, like, "No, it needs to be like this," or "It needs to be like this." And then usually what we do is we'll compromise and find that's something that's a better solution to
Yeah,
that.
find a middle between the two.
Yeah, between the middle ground,
But
just
it-
that kind.
And does Josh play that role behind both of you to watch, say, "I think this," but whatever.
For a
it's worth?
majority of the role, yeah. He
Mhm.
definitely had a huge opinion on the cut and on the story being conveyed on screen. And then that kind of goes into like we it so obviously most of it, and I would say Josh has like the third most influence onto that picture, undoubtedly. But yeah, because it was kind of just like Caden's mostly his editing movie was mostly for color, FX, a lot of just opinion of where, well, I don't like this, or I do like this. What if
Yeah.
we did something like this instead? So a lot of creative opinion and stuff like that. Whereas I did and Josh did a lot of cutting and placing, and then I came in and did a lot of framework. So anytime you see the camera do stuff, work, and then a lot of audio work. So music placement. I made the chilling track that plays throughout most of the movie. That little boom boom.
Yeah.
The heartbeat. The rest of it is all Dylan Roberts, which fucking accreditation to that dude. The dude is a fucking wizard.
And where did he
Wizard.
come from?
So Dylan, we actually worked with on a show years ago. It was an internet show called The Late Show with Corey Phillips, and he was a co-host on that. When I directed it, and Kaden was the cameraman. We wrote a lot of the second season's stuff, and so we met him through that. And then when we started doing Clairemont, he's been our mainstay in music. We started. I've slowly tried to take the reins more and more, just know kind of what we want. Like I'll send Dylan, you can say anything like, hey, I want this genre, this feeling, this type, this long, blah 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 blah. Dude, the only time he's ever told me no is when I asked him to remake a Beethoven symphony, and he's like, well,
Symphony number 9.
I'm gonna need money, a lot of money,
Yeah.
and people. I'm not gonna a computer. He like told me he will not do it, like basic. And I'm like, well, you know.
Yeah.
But like he can make anything happen. So he's been the mainstay, and I've slowly tried to like take the reins from for purposes. Just I, as a director, I kind of see the moments and like know like certain sounds I want to hear. If he doesn't fulfill my need, I always just kind of like try to double myself.
Kind of fill in the gap a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you feel like this for you, Will, has been one of learning where you place in one production versus others?
It 100%, man. It was a big level to where and how to utilize myself and my skills. That's a big thing, and for everybody else too. It's about fighting. When you're on a team and you're in a group of people and you're working on a piece of art, you know, opinions are gonna fly off. You know, everyone's gonna have one. Even the guy holding the stick, like, hey man, what if we do this? Everybody. And so it's good to identify where everyone match best at position wise and where opinions matter the most, because everybody has great opinions, but like sometimes someone has a better opinion here in this situation and then in this situation. It's kind of just getting to know people. Like get down to the core, like what are people really good at, and then put them in positions to where they can succeed in that. Ricky's done so many different things with us, but the thing he is an actor. And when he's a heel, best thing. So yeah, we're going to put Ricky as a bad guy in our movie more often than not, because that's what he's good at.
Yeah.
Until he decides to elevate other things in that field, then that's where I believe he's best at. Same for me. I feel like I'm best behind a camera. Sometimes I decide to on camera and not take on a role because it'd be best if I'm behind. That could have been the case sometimes, even with Moonlight Hour, because of I feel like I know what I want in film because I've done it for so long. I mean, it's like almost running on 5 years at this point, just doing cinema. So yeah, man, it's a big testament to learning yours and then learning other people's places as well, because you may be responsible for yourself, but when you're in a directive role, you're responsible for others as well.
Yeah. Well, there's also an interesting thing is saying if I'm going to take on this part of the job, then I inevitably can't be a part of this aspect of it.
Much.
And that's a hard compromise, but
It definitely comes down to like trust in your team around. I think, Will, you learned a lot of that.
Oh yeah, big time.
To trust like me and Josh and Austin and Ricky and Rachel and everybody on that.
Everyone's so
we
talented.
have our jobs. You can focus on yours. Don't worry about ours. We'll
Right.
get it.
Especially during filming, because that was a big thing. Was like I was so used to like directing and like, especially with Ricky, like we've been known each other for 10+ years, so like I can just look at him and be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Quit fucking this up. Like you know your lines. We've done this 1,000 times. What's going on? But I had to learn how to dial that back and allow other people to
Well, did you learn some more empathy in the fact that now you were trying to do the thing that you were always asking him to do,
Right.
and now
100%.
someone's asking that same thing of you?
Well, fuck,
it's
man.
it's great to be equals again in that. you
Yeah,
know?
it is. And for me, I don't know. It's kind of weird for that, like, perspective, because when I'm acting, I wrote the script, so like, remember, like, somewhere in there, you know what I mean? Because I've read it dozens and dozens of times. So I didn't have that many lines, so I jump in and I do 2 lines out, trying to feel it out, and it's like this process. I'm like, damn, you know, it is hard to be in that position to watch that. Yeah.
Well, when you talk about like lyrical content, for a lot of people, that first word starts the snowball effect of I know how this plays out. So
Right.
when that downhill ride starts and we get kind of sidetracked and we can't keep going, and you've already started the ride, like I said, but boop, I did my 2 lines and I know how this thing's supposed to cascade.
Yeah.
And it's like hiccup, and it's like, oh no,
It's a funny
boop,
feeling.
boop, and we get a little bit further, we hiccup again, and it's
Right.
like dealing with that frustration without being one of the guys that's allowed to push
Yeah.
and push. It's like it's a really tough place to be.
And you got to describe your relationship a lot of times, especially like Rachel. This was like, she's known us for years, but this was her first time on set with us, working with. She had so many questions, man, a redonkulous amount of questions, and sometimes we answer, but then other times it's like we're in the middle of shooting and we're got like 3 dudes running around with lights and to figure out how this is all going to work and what we're going to do, and she's asking us questions. So sometimes we just got to look at her and be like, Rachel, stop asking questions and just focus on your thing. You got to focus on what you're doing. You can't worry about, because she's worried about how it's going to look and what it's going to feel like and how the movie's going to end up. But it's like, we haven't even made it yet. You have to be in this movie right now. Like, be your character, find your place in this, and don't worry about everybody else's, because we got 5 people right now wondering how the scene's going to work out.
Yeah.
We don't need you, who's in the scene, wondering how this scene's going to work out. We need you wondering how you're going to look on this. That's it.
How you're going to do your job.
Yeah, simplify it, singular workload. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of the point to it. Yeah.
And imagine when you finish filming, when you finish that initial 6 months, for you, this moment of I've been chomping at the bit to get this things in my hand that I'm most used to doing.
Yes.
But for you, Kate, was that a moment of relief or a moment of stress to be like, that's it?
It was a moment of relief and a moment of stress at the same time. It was relief. One, there was a lot of production, and we don't have to schedule people anymore. We don't have to worry about locations, getting everything together. That's cool. And then the actual editing part, that became more stressful as it went on, because it became obsessing over like micro details, like does this line make sense? Does this scene make sense? Does this come across the right way? And that came with just time. Showing it to people.
When you can't rectify those things once they're there, you can manipulate, but the way you manipulate is within the confines of what's already put down. Like, one of the reasons that I'm here myself is because I don't want someone to tell me when I'm done. You know, I want to have that freedom. But when you're talking about a gas station that can't have guns in there for more than 2.5 hours,
100%.
There's a sticky situation. So was there a stepping away moment from the film once that was 2 weeks of
it was about it was about 2 weeks, wasn't it? After it ended.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, so we did a podcast like 2 years ago to kind of celebrate that moment, because we felt like we had like filmed everything that we went out to get, and we had filmed the story that we had wrote, like Face's script. A podcast about talking about how, you know, like this is bottled up. We did it to this point. Now it's just the pickup work and the little bit of here and there film stuff, and then the editing and then the audio. Because that's the thing. I know we talked about this last time I was here too, about the multiple layers of building the blocks to a movie. Matt, let me tell you something, man. Those layers got denser for me in the last 2 years. And there's so much work that I've learned into putting a movie together with those layers. Like, the amounts like of work just in audio that we did. So we have about 5 to 7 sheets of paper, just full of singular
probably closer
items.
to 10.
singular items that we had to go and record, because we did all this ourselves. This is all our own shit. It's all our own audio. It's all our own video. Everything is homemade,
Yeah.
you know? And so that process, man, it took a long time to just sit down with the empty clip. Oh, write this down, write this down, write this down. Go back, hey, Kaden, me and you need to go run around with a microphone and try to recreate these sounds. And then there's the process of being creative. How do we make these sounds? So there's like a moment on a lake, right? And so you're going to hear water, right? Water's going to be there. But like, you know, are we going to go to a lake? No, there's a bunch of bugs around. There's a bunch of wind. You know, there's all these different elements that can mess up your sound. So how do we make water sound? How do we make like a lake sound? There's a dock, you know. Oh, well, let's get a big table. Let's turn it upside down. Let's fill the tub full of water, and let's dump it in there. And I'll just kind of move it a little bit. And just those little creative moments to make a sound. And then doing that about 100 times. You know, because like even footsteps.
It's in a studio where they can watch the movie and they can do this. So
Yeah.
did you build a studio to do that, or did you just kind of watch the scene enough to be like,
Watch the scene.
here's the pace?
We knew it well enough. We knew the vision well enough and entrusted ourselves with our memories to watch it and then just write it all down and just know what those are and what they're for, and then just go through. And that's the hard part of the work. That's the loving your art part that a lot of people, like, especially up in the industry where they're doing it for like the paycheck and that's it, right? Like it's just work to them. That's where it gets lost. They don't really realize, like right now, Borderlands is fucking horribly bombing. $4 million made out of $110 million budget. That's a big bomb.
Yeah.
So like, but the director's coming out going, well, why don't you guys just watch it? A lot of people worked really hard on this movie. Well, that's the thing of, like, you have to understand about art. People don't care that you worked hard on it because everybody's working hard on their art. You have to make good art. And to make good art, you have to try hard and you have to understand your art. That guy did not go and watch and learn about what Borderlands was. And it shows in the money that they made. Point blank, you have to care.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I think you're right that no one cares about the effort that you put into this stuff just because
Nobody
it's precious
knows.
to you.
No one
like,
knows about it.
Like even if they do, even if they've seen you slaving over this thing, like that has nothing to do with my personal feelings about
Towards
the work that you did.
Exactly.
But I always tell people that there's so much value in the first listen or the first view when you can take someone that has the vernacular to express how they felt about it. And you also have kind of unburdened eyes. You don't need to worry about the months and years I've gone into this. Just sit on the couch and watch this and take notes and hand that to me. Did you go through that process a lot? Or did you kind of keep it to yourself?
No.
Yeah.
So I was huge on that, dude. I love opinions. I'm a share the wealth kind of guy about knowledge and opinions. So like any moment that like I had a big part in the cut and the way it looks and feels, but I wanted to make sure that I was making the right move. So I Ricky, Kaden, Austin, Josh, consistently asking, hey, how's this look? Is this good? Is this blah, 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 blah. Just to make sure that the moves I was making were good moves. Because there would always be at least one person go, well, what about this? And that's the thing is like when a room full of creative people look at something and go, that's it. That's all we want. And that's what we're going for every single time with most decisions is like most people in the room can agree to that decision and attest that that's the right move because there's always a right move. You know, there's about 3 can-do moves normally in a situation, and then there's always a right move. And sometimes it's hard to foresee what that right move is, especially in creative decisions, you know?
Yeah, but in ways I disagree with that because I always describe it as like there's a subjective house of cards that you've built. So there's a right move based on the last 3 decisions that we feel like are the right move.
Okay.
All of those had 4 to 5 options.
Right.
And so the moment that we say this one doesn't work, that one doesn't work. And how many times do we reinvent what's going on there? Is the first 6 months of editing like we've done 2 totally different cuts of this thing and
There's
now
a
we
restart
have
at some point, yeah.
Yeah.
You have a restart mentally.
Yeah. So when was the first time that you overhauled this thing?
It's about 3. I'd say there's about 3 total. So the first time was a big me and Josh back and forth. and just as much as we could go and sit in the room together. And then there was a period of time where we took a bit of a break, and then it was more like singular, like Josh would sit in, I would sit in, Josh would sit in, I would sit in. And then as that kind of got completed, we got about 75% done with the whole edit, and then I just took the reins from there and just finished it up on the last year. But there's about 3 major moments in time that we like worked diligently. So there was about 3 different mindsets. And I'm going to tell you this, man. Everybody's opinion changed on different things throughout that entire process. Like, people would say that they didn't like something a year prior, and then a year later they'd be like, this is the best idea we've had. It's crazy, the human complexity to how ideas work and how time goes and where you're at in different moments in life and why you would make those decisions towards that. So I can agree with your I like that, because it is that it's there's a multitude of choices, and if you don't choose this one, then those other possibilities from that go away. It's a paradox per se.
Your perspective is going to change from where you're standing at looking at it. You know, the moment that you get some space from it, there's a totally different lens on this thing.
Right.
And so as you guys have completed it, you know, the hardest thing I think for any artist is to take the hands off. So like the relief and the concern of being like, it's done. I can't touch it. I can't. I don't know that I love that feeling. I think it's disturbing in some ways, because all your effort is now final.
It has to be, man. That's life. You know, like we all have a birth certificate that gets a stamp on it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
There it is. That's the day you started, and then you're gonna have a day that you end, and that's how life is. Period. That's a big bold example. But in everything, man, you know, it's acceptance towards the next thing, because you as an artist know you have something up next. There's always going to be an up next.
Well, and that there's always going to be a next question person. I had for you earlier, where like you have a lot of these projects that are large, cumbersome investments of who you are and what you do. And a lot of those seem to have bookends, whether it's the podcast or the shorts or things like that. Is this the front and back of the bookends, or are we going to see Clairemont kind of moving into this style of works for the foreseeable future?
I think that's a definite.
That is a definite for us.
I think we're hungrier.
Now more so than ever.
We were before.
Now, is there a script in place?
Oh, yes, there is. It's actually going through rewrites right now.
That feature-length film that we said that we wanted to do before Moonlight, we wrote it before Moonlight. That was wrote in 2020, throughout the summer of 2020. We've rewritten that probably 3-4 times now.
Yeah, it's going through its 5th right now.
That's going to be the next big thing for us. We're not going to drop any titles on it yet, but there is something up next, and it is going to be very big.
Yeah, so while you're going through this 3.5 years of really tedious work on Moonlight Hour.
Could have been much faster, by the way. That's 3.5, that's a lot of work being kind of dismissed and not getting it done the way I believe it could have been done. I suggest that it would have been a 1.5, 2 year long.
But that's hindsight's 2020. You know?
Doesn't matter. It is what it is.
It's a learned lesson.
I'm glad it's done now, and I'm so thankful that we're about to drop it.
When there's a tough thing at the end of a project, you say like, well, the first part of this that we did, if I would have known what I knew then, we could have done it better. So why don't we just go back and redo it? Yeah. And then you start spinning the fucking wheel.
That time machine's working out for us, right, Kaden? We're building that up pretty good.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's due in like 2032. I think we should have that done.
Yeah.
But that's the next project.
So when you guys have this really tedious project on your hands, and you have this whole other film that you've said, okay, we're going to put that to the side, are you still allowing yourselves to do creative writing and kick ideas around that are totally unrelated to make sure you don't get stale on that inception moment?
Yeah, exactly.
That's been a big, funny enough, that's been a big argument in our group lately, has been like, we want to, because projects are getting bigger and bigger, and honestly, from Ricky's opinion, he's like, you know, I need to get my creative juices out, and this is how I do it. So like, you know, the big projects are awesome, and I want to be a huge part of those, but also we need something to do and kick around. So we do have a couple shorts that we've filmed already that we plan on releasing after Moonlight Hour. We got like a New Year's party planned, I think.
Yeah.
And so we do have a couple shorts back to what we were kind of doing before. to kind of, a little linger time,
Yeah.
It's already filmed. We already wrote it. We already did everything. We just got to kind of edit it and sit with it and go, ooh, pretty. And
Yeah.
then,
Well,
yeah.
I feel like you always need to play with the loose ideas in a way that's
Always.
more forgiving than what is this is the end all be all project in my life.
You're speaking the words of Ricky right now, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You said that same sense.
Sometimes you just need to have fun with it, man.
Yeah,
Like that's what we learned with
can't
these
take everything too serious.
with these shorter projects is just those are more for us just to like have fun with it and realize that we don't have to take as seriously as say like the big feature length project.
Right.
We can just have fun like we used to, and you kind of need that. You need that time of play.
Yeah.
Not to say that the big projects aren't fun or we don't play with them, but feels like there's a bit more like pressure on those than say like a 5-minute long short.
It's the big game, you know what I mean?
It's the big game.
you're
That
not-
for sure
practice is
needs to be
practice.
good.
And that is a different payoff than
Yeah.
just ideas that are fun. I kick it to you, kick it back to me. Now we're excited about this thing.
That's for this for me, man. That like once you finally get that to the point, like, oh, we got this big scene in that we've been planning for weeks on months on ends, and then finally, boom, there's the wrap.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap, and dude, it's just that moment is the peak moment for all filmmaking for me. Is to know that like all of your work and efforts got caught on camera. Boom, there it was. We just dropped a car with our buddy Jason. It wasn't even it was for a film he's working on. But we left our car 70 feet up in the air. He'd been planning it for months. Got a crane guy, all this stuff. 70 feet up in the air, we got like 4 cameras running. Action! I got the call action on it. Drops the car. Boom. It's just like, I could just see it on his face, because he's worked tremendously hard on it, just like we have on our movie. And so he's just like, dude, it's great. And like, I told him the week before because it was raining. So hard to get a crane into a field with rain. I'm just like, hey man, no matter what, you're gonna make it happen because you want to make it happen.
For sure.
And that's the beauty of it, because when he finally got to the end of that process, dude, you feel like $1 million.
Yeah. Well,
You could slay the world, man. Give me a dragon, I'll cut it down.
let's revisit the thing you said about like the coming to a head of all the work that you put in. So September 6th, we're gonna do the live viewing at Radio Artifact.
Yes, sir.
Is that a pre-sale ticket thing? Is that
You can buy pre-sale tickets. So there is a www.cincyticket.com/Clairemont Films. You can go there. You can pre-order tickets. They're $15. They'll be at the door, I'm sure.
Yeah. What time is showing and all that?
So show starts at
8 o'clock, right?
8 o'clock. I believe the doors open 7:30.
Cool.
We're gonna go till about 10ish for us, and then Jimmy's gonna take over for the rest of the night and charade us away.
Cool. And does the movie come out that day, or
It
Yes.
releases 9 o'clock, so when we're viewing it at Urban Artifact, it's going to be premiering on YouTube at the exact same time.
Live.
cool? So if you can't make it, you can still tune in and watch.
Yep.
Yep. And even if you're outside or in the bathroom, you can literally just there it is
Yeah.
on your phone, like you're watching it with us in the room. So I thought that was really cool. And then obviously Radio Artifacts live stream too. You could watch it through that as well. More of like the crowd sort of feeling. So if you want to see us and talking and all that sort of stuff, you can't do that too.
That's awesome.
I think they're on Twitch. I think it's their Twitch.
It's
they're
Twitch,
pushing
yeah.
Through that.
Yeah. Well, and what a great place to do it.
I love Devin and
Yeah.
her team, man.
Devin and Andrew, dude, I love those two dudes to death, man. They're just giant sweethearts.
Yeah. So when it comes to the follow-up work of this thing's been released and now it's time to, keeps feeding this thing to the masses, have you given yourself a definite time span that's going to go on in? Or are we just going to keep playing this thing out as much as possible?
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, play it out as long as possible per se. I mean, we'll continue to do Clairemont Film Nights, and that will probably be the premiere showing because it's our biggest project. So we'll definitely continue to show it out and try to get that. But we the plan for post marketing is mostly a bunch of shorts, a bunch of clips, sending them to the premiere link. And then if this first night goes really good and a lot of people see it, and then we get buzzed back like, oh, I couldn't make it, I wish I could have been there, oh, I hope you guys do it again, kind of really good feedback, we're going to probably do a black and white release at a different location and do kind of a little more private kind of esque thing.
So
less
Moonlight
big.
Hour in a black and white?
Yeah. Because we originally, so it's like a film noir. It's like a crime noir. Like that was the original concepting of Moonlight Hour. So we we filmed everything for it to be possible to be turned black and white. So it can be watched both ways.
And what's like the technical need to film in a certain way to go black and white?
Mostly lighting. It's mostly the lighting.
Okay, so
system
that when you
use.
lose the contrast of color, you still get all the depth of field.
Yeah, so
Right.
all colors are different saturations of white light, right? So say reds will get more grays and blues will get more like
Whites.
whites. Yeah, and so different textures will get created through the lighting, and that's something that we definitely based a lot of the style and theory off of. Was a lot of old 1930s, 1940s, 1950s black and white films,
Like your Citizen Kane type films,
that
like
would-
very dynamic,
that would use
very
big sets.
contrast lighting.
very far backlight, mid light, face light. So like three layers of lighting, and then anything else that we would do, and then we use color concept for scenes and stuff like that too.
Yeah. How much like viewing for study did you do? Like you talk about Taxi Driver, you talk about these other films you're kind of paying homage to.
So much, dude.
Is that all before shooting, or is that throughout the process? It's
Before.
like, hey, we're gonna have a movie night and we need to watch this, and these are the things we want to take away from it.
So definitely before we like to do a lot of like pre-styling before, and kind of, well, I mean, that's kind of the stuff that influenced us. We're definitely influence based. We'll see something and go, oh, I like this little part of it, so I want to take that little piece and then throw it into something much grander of ours. And so like with Taxi Driver, I mean, everything from like the driving and the lights and that opening scene, if you couldn't tell the tone similar to our intro, just very different. We're symphonic 80s, like, you know, kind of music, and then that's more jazz and sax, and so we're the same but different in those influences, and everything from like the color scheme. Like we studied the moon, because so the main themes in the movie are the car, the moon, obviously the crime, and then what is it? Masculinity, isn't it?
That's
Like,
one of the main
toxic
things.
masculinity. So that's like more of like the story underlying theme. Like you have all these men, and then you have this one kind of woman that's put into this really shitty situation, but she ends up overcoming it through
Her own strength, her own way of finding a way out of it.
It's a neat little take on it, because she doesn't say much for most of the film until she starts to take control of the situation. That's when she starts to speak. And so it's those little themes we kind of try to learn the most we can about. So like the moon, we learned about the Kelvin of the moon and its different phases and when that comes. So like right now I can tell you, I don't have the right watch on, but it's like the 13th, right?
Yeah,
So
we got a full moon soon.
Next week, probably.
Yeah.
It's the full moon, probably around the 24th, 26th.
Is it typically the third week of the month?
Yeah, right around the 24th, 25th, 26th. Sometimes can edge into the edge of the month, but just depends. Like if it's February, maybe you see it on the 26th, 27th. But like I've learned so much about just that one thing, the different colors of it. So the colors of the moon, we based our color scheming for scenes, because like one scene's yellow, like the house is like, it looks like someone's been smoking cigarettes for like 40 years in this room. And so that's like a phase of the moon, this toxic yellow. And then you have blue, which is another phase, and then it's like a purple blue, and then red. And so all these different colors that we are using in the movie are different color phases of the moon. And that's just something that most people won't really know or get unless I say it out loud like that.
Totally. And you hope the subliminal things have an effect, but without it
But the
being
study
like,
is important, because we wouldn't be able to do that without
sure.
looking in and learning about these things that we are wanting to base movies off of.
Yeah. And what was it like throughout this process to live your life with this kind of monumental project, not in the background, but kind of separate from, I gotta pay my bills, I gotta feed myself, I gotta treat myself like a person, and then I check into this, I close the door, I leave my phone outside. Like, what are you guys doing to kind of maintain that boundary between the two?
Honestly, with us, there didn't feel like there was much of a boundary. We
Yeah.
kind of carried it, and with all our projects, we kind of give it all equal weight. Like, this is just as big a part of our lives as it is our like, day-to-day lives with our, whether it's work, family, relationships. We kind of give everything its due in that, because it is important to us. It is as big as those things, because that's what we want to do. We care about it. We love it. and we just want to give it its due and do that for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, we've learned a lot through our art as people, and that's something that we always try to put into what we're doing with our movies and film is like take away from the characters and take away from the stories and learn something about ourselves. Because like you said, we make some fucked up shit, man. I mean,
Yes,
we really do. So we got to
You
take
say that so proud of that game. He's
But-
like, yes, we do.
But
Thank you.
we've
Thank
learned to
you.
be such better people because of it, because we've learned about those different, like, we didn't know what gaslighting meant before we started working on Moonlight Hour. But
No.
dude, we learned, both of us, through toxic people in our life, have been getting gaslit our entire fucking existence. And so it's just good to know how to not be manipulated, and that we learned that through this movie and seeing it by example, by showing it and learning about the psychology of these people. And then seeing, like, because Rachel, who, you know, bless her heart, she played the character, but looks at Amber and goes, "What a dumb bitch. Why didn't you just do this or do that?" Well, because
Why doesn't anybody?
why doesn't anybody? I mean, well, you know,
Why
trauma,
do people stay with
situational
abusers?
awareness, you know, it's a lot of stuff. And so we like touching on that because of the lessons that there are behind it, and because I've learned way too many easy lessons from Disney, and I like to learn more complicated lessons in life, because life's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like the other day, for the first time in a long time, I went to a theater and watched a movie with my wife, and it ends with us, and like a lot of the
Yeah.
theme of
Oh,
that-
yeah,
the
Andrew
Blake
Garfield.
Lively. No, that's
Oh,
I
that-
can't. That's We Live in Time. That's
Oh,
coming out soon though.
There's a lot of those coming out.
yeah,
But yeah, the Blake Lively movie. I know what you're talking about, Matt.
yeah, and it has a lot to do with like domestic violence and relationships.
Mhm.
It's like I think there's different types of people. Like I couldn't go see a horror film because it would ruin my month. Okay, I would not be right. And I think people live at different levels of I don't know if it's empathy or visual involvement, however you want to describe that. But like just something as complex as what it's like for people that are in abusive situations, like that really pulls me away from my life for a long time.
That's good. I'm
yeah.
glad, man,
You got
because it makes you
empathy, dude.
consider that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a powerful thing. But I'd imagine when you're working with some of these more serious topics and things like that, like to go work behind a bar after you've been sitting in front of this film for 6 hours that day, you're like, I feel like I just walked out of a gas station robbery.
Yeah.
Like, I feel
Oh,
sick to my core about this.
It
thing.
lingers with you, dude. It stays with you for sometimes. Like we did what was it? It's a scene where one of the characters gets like slapped really hard.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
very intense, very emotional scene. And like the day after, I had to work like the next morning, and I was just so
Thinking about it,
drained
man.
and tired, dude.
Yeah.
And just thinking about that, and like thinking about how like people, this is real. Like
Yeah,
stuff like that
experiential,
happens
yeah.
to people in their lives. It's like watching like a true crime documentary, and it just lingers on you. You just think about all the darkness and the evil in the world, and it goes away after a while. But just for that instant, man, it stays with you and it weighs you down. But that's where you got to find like the good in life and the good message, and that's what we've always tried to do in our films. Is like we try to show, if we show something bad, we want to show that there is something good that can come with it, or you can move past it in a way.
Yeah. Well, you're packaging experiences that you get to have secondhand, and if you really do your job, it doesn't even feel like it's secondhand.
Yeah.
It feels that immersive.
Yeah.
Um,
He doesn't even make people question what your motives are as a filmmaker. They just go, "Wow, that situation was so abrupting that I can't stop thinking about it." That's the goal. We don't want people
Yeah.
to question our morality on our filmmaking. We want them to question the subject matter on the film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, one thing as it relates to like music versus cinema is like you work on your project in a setting that feels like it permits the best version of what you want to see. I got my nice studio monitors. I put my headphones on. Things are ideal for me, but I have to come to the conclusion that people are going to watch this on their phone. They're going to watch it in full light. They're going to watch it on shittier screens. And what you is there does that bum you out to think of the fact that people aren't going to see this all in radio artifact with the lights down and the full immersion of what that is? That some people are going to see it in lackluster quality for what you actually did for it.
It kind of does in a way, because like we and Will noticed it like playing it through. We finally played it through like a really, really
Like an
good
entertainment system?
entertainment system.
Yeah.
And you hear all the music.
It's so wow.
Will was so excited for you. He was like, dude, this is how it's
I was losing my
supposed to
shit.
sound.
Yeah,
He's like,
because I've been working
"Fuck
on it for
phones."
so long, dude. I've listened to it so many times on this stupid fucking screen. As soon as I seen it big and like a surround sound, I was like, this is what it's supposed to sound. Because we have some nice speakers. We have some Personas, studio speakers. But like getting that subwoofer and that overall surround sound push, I was befuddled, man. And because like there's just so much work that I went into the effects and the mastering and mixing of that audio, and so to hear it come out and it sounds good like a movie, couldn't be happier, dude. I was so excited.
Yeah, so it's almost like the opposite effect of like getting to feel it in the intended format is enough to say like, if you get shorted less than that, that's on you. I'm having
It
a good
is.
time.
Yeah,
it is. And that's what I was going to say, too. It's like, it sucks that people won't be able to experience the movie it's supposed to be experienced. And there's always people that come up to you, and you know this as an artist. Hey, man, listen to your song. I listened to it on my, Nokia 5, and it sounded like, good, but it kind of was like, it just sounded weird. It's like, well, yeah, dude, you listened to it through a Nokia 5.
Yeah.
Maybe you should, like, I don't know, go watch it somewhere else and, like, the higher degree of definition, maybe. And it's just so, but there's always that, and it's just always going to be a feat, especially with all the different technologies that everybody has access to.
Totally.
Samsung TVs are worse than these TVs,
Yeah.
So you always get different speakers, and it's never going to be perfect. One does HDR, which makes it
Yeah,
so
well,
many
it's a
different
whole-
things.
and it makes
you
you
just gotta
aware of
know
the things
that-
that you're going to be blind to.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just know when you are making something, and that you we make it for like. I know that in a surround sound, it's going to sound good. It's going to sound good enough on a phone.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters. Just as long as, like, the point gets across, the audio I want you to hear comes across, the visuals that I want you to see gets across, that's all I need. And if you don't experience the best way, then that sucks for you, because it's fucking awesome.
When like there's layers of consumption of how far down the rabbit hole. Did you notice the nuance of like this just because I like the music side of it.
Yeah.
Hearing you come in as the radio voice is that funny song.
Yeah.
That's
It's
a little
like,
kickback to older films.
yeah, it's like I enjoyed that moment, but I can imagine you sitting in a studio and having to do that and saying how FM do I make this? How lo-fi do I
Yes.
make this to kind of give the presentation of a gas station radio
But not
DJ?
too much.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's that funny play. It's like, how deep does someone go into caring about that? It depends on the person.
Right.
But
Well,
for that-
and no, you're right on, because then the next DJ comes on, Wayne Malone, and his is more robotic and this hypersonic sound.
He's
So-
more late night DJ.
Yeah, so yes, the thought went into that, even into the next DJ's sound,
Yeah.
which I make him different. He's actually on a pan. He pans from left to right. He does this. So that's something I thought was cool too. That would make him different and unique. It's not a necessary thing that you should do, but it's something that I thought was special in the film, that because it's not very long moments that he's talking, but it's just that little, whoa, I feel like a wave is going through the audio. Kinda.
Yeah.
Just fun stuff, you
and
know.
it's that wave of playfulness throughout the whole thing. It's like to
Be
hear
creative.
Yeah, exactly. And you're free to do what you want. It doesn't have to be right, you know?
Right.
Well, gentlemen, as we start to conclude today, is there anything else in regards to the film or Clairemont Films, your own work that you'd like to promote?
We got that movie coming out September 6th, Moonlight Hour, Urban Artifact. Please come out. We're going to show a bunch of our shorts before we premiere that. We're going to premiere that at 9. If you can't come there, visit us on the YouTube. Go subscribe on there. I have some sweet, fun things for, well, just one fun thing. Booyah, if you want to scan that.
It might be scannable. You're also
And you can have
linked
this
in
as
the
well.
YouTube below. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so,
Oh,
yeah.
did you bring Bud?
No, I didn't. I should have brought a button. I'll give you. You're not gonna be there, but I will get you a button.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, Urban Artifact. Jimmy's gonna be playing a set that night. We got some stuff coming in the future. Look around for us around New Year's. We're gonna be doing another film then, and yeah, man, we'll be around and we'll be kicking.
All right. Well, Will and Kate, you are bad motherfuckers. I love you both. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Love you too,
Love
brother.
you too, brother.